Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy day 2 of the Cape Summit. Hope things are going well for you. Learning lots and all that. Let me share my screen here. Just make sure I'm on the right slide. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me share my screen here. Okay. So, excuse me, Netta did mention that I've uploaded my resources to the vFairs platform. So if you're looking at the agenda, it's a little hard to tell. I kind of missed it the first time myself, but actually right at the very bottom of my session listing, there's a little link here, session 25, helping our students acquire digital literacy skills. If you actually go ahead and click on that link, it opens up a folder. And there are 2 files in there. There are 2 PDF files in there. One is a file of the slides that we're going to go over today, or I'm going to go over today. But the other one is a notes document. And so if you can navigate to that folder and open up the notes document, we're going to actually use that notes document in a bit. If you can't get there, what we'll do is when we come to that point, Netta and or I will put the file in the chat, and perhaps you can download it from there. And I think that Zoom feature is still a little wonky. I'm not sure everybody can do that. Also, I think depending on your device or whatever. But anyway, if you can get to that folder, so you can grab the notes document, that'd be great. And I did, so one other thing too is Netta mentioned that we may get to breakout rooms here at the end. I just want to be very explicit about that. Sometimes, and I'm sure we've all been in a session where we didn't know at the beginning of the session that we might end up in a breakout room later in the session. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm in a breakout room. So I just want to be very clear that we may be doing that later. I want to kind of put you on alert. We'll see when we get to that part of the session if we have the chance to get to breakout rooms. But I just want to be very clear that I built that into the presentation. It may or may not happen. So get ready for that. Okay, so let me switch over to my slides. And here they come. All right, so again, we're here for, excuse me, we're here for helping our students acquire digital literacy skills. Anthony Burek from OTAN, I'm a project specialist here. I'm happy to be with you here today. My contact info is here at the bottom of slide 1. Please feel free to reach out to me with any and all questions about digital literacy, tech topics, things like that. Here's our agenda. It's a quick 60 minutes. It's not even 60 minutes at this point. Wow, time's flying by here. Okay, so I just want to give you a little bit of an intro to OTAN in case you're not familiar with our organization. Then we're going to spend a few minutes kind of talking about digital literacy, sort of an introduction to the topic. I will send you off to a survey, and I want you to start thinking about a specific digital literacy challenge that you're facing with your students, with your staff members, with your colleagues back at the agency, maybe with your constituents back at the agency. But I want you to kind of be thinking about that. We'll get to that, having you sort of name that in a few minutes. Then we're going to talk about kind of a newish framework for digital literacy skills. I'm calling it the Seattle Digital Skills Framework. You may or may not be familiar with it, but we'll talk about that. I also want to give you the opportunity to take a look at some digital literacy resources that are out there in the world. You probably know about some of them. There are a lot of them. We want to try to figure out what are the best ones that we might be able to use back at our agencies with our students. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of dig into that kind of middle of our session. And then towards the end of our session, I hope that we'll have some time to actually talk about, okay, now we have some resources in hand. What do we do with these resources? Like, how do we actually get them into our instruction, into our practice, so that they will be of use to the students and you'll kind of know what to do with them. So hopefully we'll have some time for that at the end. And like I said, this is a quick one, 60 minutes, but please reach out to us at OTAN if you would like a longer training at your agency. That's a nice segue into OTAN itself. So in case you're not familiar with OTAN in the state of California, we have 3 state leadership projects for adult education. We're blessed to have 3. Hopefully you know the 3 that I speak of: CalPro, which focuses on professional development, training in the classroom for becoming a better teacher and having a better program. CASAS, data accountability, data collection, all things data. And OTAN, we focus on technology training for adult educators around the state. We have a very nice website, OTAN.us. Take a look at what we have there. We have lots and lots of stuff there that focuses on technology training. So please take a few minutes to take a look at our website if you're not familiar with it. And again, we do all kinds of training, not just this topic, but all kinds of topics. So please reach out to us if you're interested in a training back at your agency. And hopefully someday we will all be back face to face fully, and we'll be able to actually see each other and do all that good stuff. So, okay, here we go. So first I want to just kind of lay the foundation here, talking about digital literacy. So I'm using this definition from the American Library Association. It's been around for a while, but let's take a look at the language of the definition here. So I'm going to read it for you. Digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, requiring both cognitive and technical skills. So let's kind of unpack this for a minute here. So information and communications technologies, this is kind of an older term for basically, you know, all things technology, technology tools, things like that. I believe this definition came out probably around 2010, 2011, something like that. So it's got a few years behind it, but I think the idea is still kind of the same. I mean, we're talking about all these kinds of ed tech tools that are now available to us. So it's the ability to use these tools, right? And not just one tool or two tools, but lots of tools, okay? To find, evaluate, create, and communicate information. Yeah, a lot of action verbs there. We could probably think of some more when it comes to digital literacy, like what we would be able to do with technology. But the idea about digital literacy is that you're able to do all kinds of things using technology, not just one or two things, okay? And then requiring both cognitive and technical skills. So again, I think sometimes when we think about digital literacy, we kind of focus on the tools, on the technology. And that's true. We do need to think about those tools, right? But we also need to think about like learning how to use those tools. Can we use those tools in different instances than the one that we're currently in right now? If we learn how to do something on one platform, can we somehow transfer that ability over to other platforms so that we can do similar types of things? So for example, like if we fill out a job application, can we also fill out an application for, you know, for healthcare, right? Or something else, right? To, you know, we're applying for an apartment or something like that. So can we take those kind of online application skills and use them in other instances? So I just want us to kind of be broad-minded when we're thinking about digital literacy. I know that, again, I find that sometimes people sort of tend to say, oh, well, my students need to do this or this or this. And that's right. And they also need to do all kinds of other things as well. But sometimes we're just sort of focused on one or two things. So, okay. From another organization, National Digital Inclusion Alliance, I want to just kind of briefly run through this list of things that they digitally literate person. Think about this in the context of your students or whomever you're working with or serving at your agency, but also think about it for yourself as well. How digitally literate of a person are you as well? So again, digital literacy literate person possesses the variety of skills, technical and cognitive, required to find, understand, evaluate, create, and communicate digital information in a wide variety of formats. So this is sort of like what we just saw with that initial definition, but there's more, but wait, there's more. Is able to use diverse technologies appropriately and effectively to retrieve information, interpret results, and judge the quality of that information. Some of you might have delved into like media literacy, information literacy. This is kind of sort of that side of it as well. Understands the relationship between technology, lifelong learning, personal privacy, and stewardship of information. I love that word stewardship, by the way, $10 word right there. Okay, but really kind of has an understanding of like, you know, privacy issues, privacy concerns. How do we keep data secure? How do we do that for ourselves? How do we do that for our students? And you kind of have a sense of sort of like the, you know, the infrastructure of technology here. Uses these skills and the appropriate technology to communicate and collaborate with peers, colleagues, family, and on occasion, the general public. Again, this is back from 2010, 2011. I think it's no longer on occasion with the general public. We're all into social media and things like that. So I think it's a lot more social than originally conceived of. Okay, and one more thing, uses these skills to actively participate in civil society and contribute to a vibrant, informed, and engaged community, okay? So again, when we're talking about digital literacy and thinking about what does it mean to be a digitally literate person, it's gonna be quite broad, right? Again, you might have a particular focus with your student group or your colleagues or your community or whatever. But again, just think of digital literacy in broad terms, all right? And for yourself, like how digitally literate a person are you as well? Okay, so what I'd like to do is take a couple minutes and actually do a quick survey. So, and maybe Netta, you could pop this in the chat here. We're going to bit.ly/, and then after the slash, it's case sensitive. So capital CAEP, capital CAPE, lowercase diglit, DIGLIT. And Netta's gonna pop that in the chat for us. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick survey. 4 questions. The last question is the question where you're going to name or identify the digital literacy challenge that you're currently facing. Just one of them. It doesn't have to be a range. Just one in particular that you're facing with your students or your colleagues or in your schools or whatever. Okay, so let's take a couple minutes to do that. I'm going to actually switch over to the survey so we can take a look at it. Out of there. And again, if you're having trouble getting to the survey, just pop that in the chat, and Netta and I, probably more Netta than me, but Netta will be able to help us out here. Okay, you can actually see it the way you see it. So hopefully you're here, the Cape Summit 2021 Digital Literacy Survey. So take a few minutes to fill this out. This is actually a Microsoft form. I know a lot of you are using Google Forms and you're sort of in the Google universe at the moment. So Microsoft form is the equivalent of a Google form. You know, they wouldn't say it, they wouldn't admit to it, either Microsoft or Google, but they basically are very similar. One thing about the Microsoft form that I want to point out is you may see this icon. It's an open book with kind of a sound icon in front of it. That is the Microsoft Immersive Reader. It is a tool that's built into Microsoft products. It will actually read out the text that appears in that section of the form. So you may consider, for example, for your ESL students or for maybe some ABE students, some folks who might need help with both the text and audio, you might consider using a Microsoft form in the future. But I'll give you a couple minutes to complete that. And the responses are starting to come in. Thank you very much. We can look at the results real time here. So. And I did kind of, I looked back at my explanation, or sorry, my abstract for the session yesterday, and was like, oh, we might not just get teachers in the room, we might actually get other people in the room. So welcome administrators, welcome classified, welcome transition staff, and welcome teachers, and anybody else too. Maybe librarians, I don't know. And I'm sorry if you can hear Rudy. I do have the door closed, but. Let's see if I can do something about Rudy. 1 sec. Okay, sorry about that, Rudy.
If you are having trouble with that bit.ly, I just want to let you know that you can take the bit.ly and then paste it into your address bar. Or I went ahead and I left a link to the actual Microsoft form. So just in case you're using the bit.ly, go ahead and copy paste it into your address bar. Otherwise, you can click that link. Great, thank you.
Anita, you can also right click on the bit.ly and it gives you an option to open.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
And I also just made it a live link to, if you add that HTTPS in the beginning, that should liven it up. So, okay, So looks like we have a good number of participants here. So let's kind of take a look at our results. So again, we have a nice mix of adult ed folks in the room. Again, welcome to everyone. What's your program or work area? ESL folks, but we also have ABE, ASE, we have CTE folks, we have office support, administrative staff, and then we also have some other folks in the room too. So again, welcome. Okay, so we have a nice mix. All right. How would you rate your own tech proficiency? So again, you know, thinking about the digital literacy definition and characteristics, you know, how would you qualify it for yourself, right? So at the moment, our average number is somewhere between a 3 and a 4, so that's good. Would have been interesting, of course, to ask this question maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. I have a sense that a lot of us have become digital or tech experts in short order here, so that's good. Okay, and then name a I have my Zoom in the way, sorry. Name a digital literacy challenge that your students or staff face in the classroom in the school. So try to be as specific as possible. So let's see if we can see this. Okay, so we have many students are older or ESL and technology use and access is difficult. Okay, access to their devices. They don't know how to use computers at a basic level, using specific tools. So maybe Google tools, Canvas, a different LMS, something like that. Now, of course, everybody's thinking about hybrid instruction. So how do we use technology in that context, going from like 100% online now to maybe some hybrid mix that we're using at the agency? Teachers lack the skills, so that's an issue as well, right? And maybe we don't have specific classes. We don't have sort of a dedicated way to address the digital literacy instruction. Okay. Access issues, right? Internet connection. Yeah, our students are very technologically challenged. I think we're all technologically challenged, but anyway. And again, you know, you all know, I mean, in the last year and a half, we've been asking students and teachers and ourselves to do like all kinds of things like all of a sudden, right? So that's a challenge, right? And it still is taking us time to sort of sort that out, you know, still to figure out how to, you know, like, for example, like people are having trouble connecting to the bit.ly, you know, as an example. Okay, so many different kinds of devices, right? You have to sort of plan for a whole landscape of devices that are out there, wide range of abilities. Sometimes for staff, it's their comfort level. So what am I able to do that I can then share with the students, but don't ask me to do anything more than that because I can't do it. Passwords, yes. ESL students in particular, or maybe students who are having language difficulties, you're sort of working on two fronts, right? So reliable internet, phones, just keeping up with things, right? I mean, you all know, I mean, you've latched onto some tools over the last year and a half that are also constantly in motion as well. It's like you know, you come back on a Monday after the weekend and all of a sudden like the platform looks different, or they have some new features, or features that you used to use are no longer there. So everything is sort of fluid in motion, being able to keep up. Let me see what else we got here. There's a fear, there still is kind of a fear of technology. I think it's, you know, different people have different comfort levels with technology and being asked to do certain things. I mean, I think the whole privacy thing scares a lot of people about technology. Like, oh my God, you mean all my data is out there and anybody can look at it and ... right? Okay, so I think we have a pretty good sense of it. Thank you for doing that. And so what I'd like you to do is sort of hold on to that skill, or sorry, hold on to that challenge that you've identified for yourself, because we're gonna move on to the next thing here, okay? All right, so let me switch back to the slides. Again, Zoom's in the way. Okay. And Netta, let me know if you're not seeing the slides for some reason. Oh, okay.
I see the slides.
Okay, good. All right, so sorry about that. I don't know why I came back all the way to the beginning, but there it is. Okay, so next thing here is we're going to talk about this newish framework, the Seattle Digital Skills Framework. So basically with this framework, you may have heard about it. It's newish within the last like 2 years or so. 2019, I think, is when the original report came out. But basically, it's a framework that doesn't really start from scratch. Like it's not like, okay, we're just going to create this brand new framework out of nothing. What the folks did here was they actually looked at 6 other digital literacy frameworks and 9 other digital literacy curricula, and basically kind of went through all of those documents and took a look at what other organizations identified as sort of the top things to focus on in terms of digital literacy, and sort of like rearranged everything into a newish framework that refers back to those frameworks, but kind of casts digital literacy in sort of a new light here. So I want us to take a few minutes to actually look at the framework itself. The way that it's organized is that the framework has 10 domains. So if you're looking at the slide here and you see the communication at the very top of a table, so the communication is the first of 10 domains that are in this framework. And then, excuse me, and then within the domain area, there's any number of digital skills that are associated with that domain. So if we, let me stop sharing here. I'm going to switch over to, so again, if you have the notes document in front of you from the folder on the VFAIR site, and you go to page 2, there's a section on the notes document that is Seattle Digital Skills Framework, and there's 2 bullets. The second bullet will bring you up a copy of the framework, okay? But let me also share that so you can all see what we're looking at here.
I have it, Anthony.
You got it? Okay. I have it here too. Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, and Netta just put the link to the framework in the chat as well. Okay, so again, it's about a 4 or 5 page framework here. And again, it's divided into the 10 domains. So you'll see communication as the first domain. You'll see creation as the next domain. You'll see device ownership as the next domain. You'll see essential foundations is the 4th domain. And my sense probably from the room, I mean, just looking at our list of challenges so far, is that a lot of you probably have a challenge that fits into this area right here, right? This is like basic digital literacy ability, connecting students, setting up email accounts, understanding how to get into a Zoom room, all, you have a sense of what those things are, okay? And then we have information skills, we have lifelong learning, sorry for the scroll, we have mobile, we have online life, we have privacy and security, and the last one is workplace, okay?
Anthony,
So,
I shared the link to your notes page, not to the framework.
oh, okay. So if you're on my notes page, let me see if I can switch over to that. Where are you? Here we go. Okay, so this is my notes page, or sorry, my notes file here. So if you go to page 2 of the notes notes document, and I have this heading Seattle Digital Literacy Framework, it's the second bullet. That will bring up a copy of the framework for you, okay? And then we're gonna get to this part in a few minutes here, okay? So let me switch back over to the framework. So if you could just take a minute or two, do a quick scan of the framework document here and see if you can identify the where your skills challenge, which domain it might lie under, okay? And then what I'd also like you to do is also look at the other skills that are discussed in that domain area and start thinking about perhaps what's the relationship between the particular challenge I face at the moment and these other skills that are mentioned in that domain area, okay? So just take like a minute or so to do a quick scan
here. Would you repeat all of that?
Okay,
I'm get
sure.
to the right document while you're talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have a digital skills challenge in mind that your students are facing or your colleagues are facing or something that's going on at your school or your agency or whatever, so you have that specific skills challenge in mind, what I'd like you to do is take a look at this framework document and see if you can identify which domain that skills challenge would fall under. So for example, let's say you have a lot of students who are having trouble right now setting up an email account. Like it would be really great if they could figure out how to set up an email account. So if you're looking at let me scroll up to this Essential Foundations domain, you'll see that getting an email account is one of the skills that's mentioned within this domain. So I'm trying to see if all of you can take that skill and place it under one of these domains, or whatever you think might be the closest domain if it's not exact, okay? And also take a look at some of the other skills that are a part of that domain. So you may, for example, help your students to get an email account, but there may be other skills that you would also like to work on that go along with that. So for example, like once they shouldn't just get an email account to get an email account. I mean, they can do it, I suppose, but then they need to know, oh, okay, well, now I can actually send and receive an email. How does that work? How do I, and what about setting up a safe password in the beginning when I set up that account, right? It's not password or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or anything like that. Like, folks need to understand what it means to actually set up a secure password, okay? Hopefully that suffices. Okay, so let's move back to the slides here. Let's see if this works. Netta, hopefully you're gonna help me with this. So
We see your slides. Or not yet, almost there.
but why is it going back to the, okay, so here's a problem, a tech problem that I don't understand why this tech problem is happening. So 1 second, is this oh, that is not what I want. Okay, let me pause my share, save you the trouble of having to look at what I'm doing here. Okay, so what we're going to try to do here is, what we're going to try to do here is, if you know how to use the annotation tool in Zoom, what I'd like you to do is check the domain area that you've identified for your skills challenge. And let's see if people know how to do that.
And everybody, if you don't know how to use the annotation tool, you are seeing probably a green bar on the very top of your screen that says you are viewing Anthony Burick's screen. Next to that is the View Options drop-down menu, and there's an Annotate feature. So go ahead and click Annotate from that drop-down menu. And I will demonstrate by putting a check mark right there. There we go, Jill. Thank you.
Okay.
So again, that green bar that says you are viewing Anthony Burick's screen, View Options, click on Annotate.
Great. Yeah, today we're practicing all kinds of digital skills in this session. Didn't know what you were in for here, but here we go, right? Okay.
It looks like some folks don't have that feature. I would encourage you to install the newest version of Zoom, perhaps. Looks like half of us do have some access to that and half of us don't.
Good. Okay, so it looks like so far we have folks identifying information skills, essential foundations, excuse me, workplace, as sort of the domains that are kind of rising to the top here, right? These are the domain areas where we feel like our students, well, first of all, we've kind of identified these areas as where we really need to focus in terms of that digital literacy training for our students. And then once we start digging into those domains, we could probably identify a skill or two that we really, at the moment, our students are challenged with, or our colleagues or your constituents, right? Maybe you've started using a lot of like online applications, to get students into your agency, into your school. But what about those students who don't know how to fill out the applications to say that I'm interested in going to your programs at your school? So there's a digital literacy challenge that you need to figure out how to solve, okay? Looks like communication is another area that's risen to the top. Okay, fantastic. Okay, good. I just wanted to kind of have a sense here. Not all of these, I think when you look at this foundations, when you look at the framework document, right? Not all domain areas are equal. Like some of them really are more important for your students and for your schools. Some of them maybe not so much. It's interesting that nobody checked this creation domain. I think that this is really like, yeah, creation is like a whole domain area that, you know, it would be great, I think, if adult education could really move a lot more into that rather than, it's really like, we don't want our students to be passive recipients of technology and passive users of technology. We want them to be able to also be creators as well. I mean, that's the hope. That's the 21st century, one of the 21st century tech skills that's kind of talked about a lot, is that we're basically, with technology, we're empowering people to create. So anyway, for the future. Okay, thank you very much for doing that. Let's move on to the next slide here. Oh, I have to clear all the annotation. Ornetta, can you clear all the annotation? Can I clear it?
I can clear.
Thank you. Okay, all kinds of digital literacy skills going on here. Thank you so much. Okay, all right. So we have our skill that we're thinking about, our skill challenge. All right. We've taken sort of a cursory look at this framework. We have a sense of kind of where this skill falls into, you know, the entire range of digital literacy, sort of our domain area. Now, what I'd like us to move on to is looking at some resources. And again, you may be familiar with some of these resources, but hopefully there are some new ones that you're going to take a look at today that will be of interest to you. So back on the notes document, and I'll show you where that is. I have kind of a set on page 2, a list of some digital literacy websites that we've come to know and love over the last couple of years that have resources that you can use with your students or with your colleagues or constituents or whomever. I've tried to order them kind of from like very beginning level resource to something that's more advanced towards the bottom. But I'll admit that kind of that middle area is quite murky. Like it's sort of, a lot of these resources are sort of like a range from like beginning skills to more advanced, okay? But they're sort of kind of in that order, sort of the way I think about them. Maybe not the way you think about them, but that's basically what they look like. So what I'd like us to do now is to take a couple of minutes to maybe look at one of those websites and see if there are, if there is like a resource or an activity or a tutorial or something that corresponds with the skill that you have in mind, a resource that you might be able to bring to meet the challenge that you're currently facing. So if you happen to find one quickly, take a look at another website and see if you can also find another resource that you might be able to make use of. So let me stop sharing. Let me switch over to, oops, one sec here. Let me switch back over to that notes document and I'll show you what we're looking at here. Okay, so again, on page 2 of the notes document, we just looked at the framework. So now we have this set of digital literacy resources. So again, sort of from beginning to more advanced, but that middle is quite broad in the middle there. So some of you might know about Learning Chocolate, for example. If you're an ESL teacher, you probably know about this website. It's really focused on vocabulary, but it's so dense in terms of like the vocabulary words and pictures and activities and listening, speaking activities or typing activities. So it's a really good one just for like basic vocabulary. People always sometimes talk about typing. Like, do our students know how to type? Typing.com, Typing Club, there's a whole bunch of them out there. And it's interesting, I was actually looking at typing.com last night, and typing.com has like way expanded into like, now they're like into coding lessons, for example, C-O-D-I-N-G, coding lessons, like how to get started with coding, like from typing, okay. All right, and then we sort of have this middle range here. GCF Learn free, I think a lot of folks by now have heard of it or seen it. There's also Digital Learn. There's also North Star. There's also Tech Boomers. I know some of you were talking about, you might have older students, so maybe you might find resources that are more appropriate for older students on the Tech Boomers website. 21 Things for Students and 21 Things for Teachers are actually, they're more K-12 oriented, but they're very dense. Like they take a topic from start to finish with lots of reading, lots of activities. It's a good one. It's not, I mean, of course, in adult ed, we're always having to calibrate the K-12 stuff, but some of it is already sort of ready to go. So take a look at that one. The basic computer skills MOOC has a lot of video on it. Learn My Way is a good one. It's based in the UK, so you're going to get some of that British English language and also British, I was going to say British English, UK topics and things like that. When they talk about their health care system, the NHS, so we don't have that here in the United States. But anyway, Learn My Way. And then some of you know about Google Applied Digital Skills. One thing too with GCF Learn Free, Digital Learn, North Star, and the Google Applied Digital Skills is that they also have a companion teacher site as well. So not only the resources, but also resources for you all to figure out in some ways how to get this stuff with your students in your classrooms, things like that, okay? So I'd like for us to take a couple minutes, or not us, or you, not me, to take a couple minutes, click on some of the links to some of these sites, see if you can find some resources that correspond with the skill challenge that you're facing, okay? If you're not sure what that means, so let me click on the GCF Learn Free, for example, since a lot of us tend to be familiar with that one. So again, let me go back to the My Skill Challenge, which was, I really want my students to get their email account set up. I want them to kind of have a basic understanding of how email works. They can send me an email, they can read an email from me. So if you go to the, and the GCF Learn Free site is dense, but if you go to the tech side of it, the technology side, and you click on the link there, you can see the kind of the topics that they have with GCF Learn Free. So Office, oh, here's email. Okay, hold on a second, wait a minute. I don't have to make something from scratch. I can just use something from GCF Learn. So if I go to their email section, so they have an email basics tutorial, a Gmail tutorial, and then beyond email tutorial. Okay, so these are some potential resources. So let me give you a couple minutes, take a look at some of these other sites, see if you can find a resource or two that corresponds with your skill.
And Audrey, do you mean the GCF Global link?
Actually, Audrey, if you go to the Cape Summit agenda and look at the folder that's at the bottom of the session listing, I have two files in there, slides and a notes document. You need the notes document right now.
Thank you. I see it now.
Perfect. Nelines, which sites are you talking about? From the notes document, Nelines? So if you go back to, okay, so if you have the, where am I here? Okay, so if you have my notes document from the folder, and I think Netta also put it in the chat earlier. So we're looking at page 2. You should be able to click on the links right from the notes document to go to any one of the sites. These are all live links.
I think one of the challenges, Anthony, was I sent the link, but it's requiring folks to log in if they were Microsoft users. So they don't.
Really?
Well, when I sent the link, that's what it was requiring them to do.
Oh,
If you use
Yeah,
it
that's the
actual-
problem.
If you use it from the actual vFairs platform, if you click on it through the vFairs platform, you can get to that document without having to log in. But unfortunately, when I sent in that, or when I posted that link, it's requiring folks to log in.
got it. Okay. See, there's a digital literacy challenge that we're trying to solve right now. Sharing links to files. Okay. All right, let me give you another, excuse me, let me give you another 30 seconds or so to see if you can find one resource that corresponds with your skill challenge that you're trying to meet. It's kind of running through the chat as well. Colin says Technomedia. I've heard about Technomedia, Colin. Thank you for the recommendation. Oh, thank you, Karen. On Technomedia. Okay, I'm just running through the chat quick here. Lots of good stuff. Okay. Christopher, good question. Do any of the sites provide certifications or the like? So just kind of off the top of my head here, I know North Star does. That's kind of that's sort of their reason for having the site. It is a paid subscription that your school might consider investing in, but basically once the students pass the assessments, with I don't remember what there's like a passing score or something like that, 80% or higher. But once they actually pass those assessments, they actually get certificates that correspond with the assessment areas that they just completed. So that's one that exists. The Google Applied Digital Skills, I think, is sort of a similar type of thing where there's an ability to earn a certification in some of those areas. So yes, some of them, a few of them have it, but some of them don't. So that's a good thing to explore, depending on the sites that you're looking at. And then Lisa, question, what is exact title in resources? Thank you. I'm not sure what that means, Lisa. If you want to clarify that question.
I found it. Thank you.
Okay. Solve your own problem. Perfect.
Yes, not in the resources, just on where the session's listed in that folder there. Got it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, super. Okay, good. Okay, so let's circle back here. So hopefully, again, by now you've found one or two or maybe more resources that you might be able to use to start addressing the challenge, the digital literacy skills challenge that you're facing or your students are facing, or something going on at your school or what have you, okay? And again, I would, after our time here together, definitely I would take some time to take a look at these sites, these websites. They've sort of, like I said, for us, they've kind of risen to the top over the last 1.5 or 2 years or so. But there's a lot of other good sites that are out there. I saw that Technomedia was, oh, thank you, Karen. Technomedia is mentioned in the chat as well. So take a look at Technomedia. They also have the certificates as well. Fantastic. I'll make sure to add that one to the list. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so all right. So where are we? What are we doing, Anthony? What are we doing? Let me go back to my slides here for a second. Oh, okay. So this is what I wanted to. Yes, we've done that. Okay, here we go. So this is what I wanted to have us do now for our last part of our time together. Hopefully this will go to the right slide. No, it doesn't. Okay, hold on a second. I don't know why. This is a digital literacy challenge that I am currently facing. Why can I not go back to that slide?
Sounds like we have some questions for Technomedia about whether or not free. Anthony's sharing the free resources on the slide. So whoever's here from Technomedia, you can answer that question for Monica. Does Technomedia offer free training? I looked at the website, but it seems you need to purchase a license.
Go back to the slides here. Let's see if I can actually, let's try this button. If one button doesn't work, try another button. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got it.
Okay.
Just answered the question for Technomedia in chat.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. Okay, so for our last bit of time here, so I want us to take a few minutes to think about, okay, now we have some resources in hand, but the resources just, by themselves don't do anything. Like, you actually have to do something with these resources. So I'd like for us to take a few minutes to think about, okay, I have these resources. Okay, what am I going to do with them now? Like, how do I get them to my students in a way that's going to really help them learn those skills or start working on developing those skills to meet the challenge that we're currently facing in the class or in the school or what have you, okay? So this is where I wanted to send us off to breakout rooms. And I think I'm gonna do it. Let's do it. Let's be adventurous. It's a beautiful Wednesday outside my window in Sacramento. Let's do it. The rain train is over, and wherever the rain train is, brighter days ahead are for us. So let's do the breakout. So Netta, do we have the, how come I don't see? Oh, because okay. So I have the breakout room set up. I have 10 rooms set up, and they are by the domain area. So you are free to join a breakout room that, that corresponds, oh, actually, here's my slide. So join the breakout room that corresponds with your domain area. Okay, so the way you do that is when you click on the breakout room function from your Zoom toolbar, you should see all 10 listed. If you go over to the, sorry, I'm backwards in Zoom, but if you move over to the right of the name of the breakout room, the word join should appear. And if you click on that, you will join that breakout room, okay? So, oh, and I think I need to actually turn on the breakout rooms, right?
Yeah, you need to open the rooms, please.
I will do that, okay. All right, so I've opened up the 10 breakout rooms, click on that breakout rooms function at the bottom, and then just go ahead and join one of those domain rooms. Chat with those folks for about maybe 5 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and finish things up at the very end, okay? And again, the idea is that we want to talk about we want to kind of share some ideas about how we're actually going to use these resources. Like, what are we going to do with them? How are we going to get them in the hands of students or use them working with students? Okay, looks like folks are joining the breakout rooms. Fantastic. Good, I appreciate your adventurism. Sure.
Let us know if you need some assistance. We're happy to help. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and we can help you.
We can move you to a room if you need help getting to a room. Folks in rooms. Good, good, good. Okay.
Just a reminder, we have a few people in our main session here, and we'd love for you to contribute to those breakouts if you can. If you can't, no problem at all, but we just want to make sure that you know where to find those breakout rooms. As a reminder, you click on breakout rooms and you'll have domain names. And next to that domain name is a join link. You would click on that link to join that room.
It looks like folks are getting there, so
okay.
That's good. Okay, so we'll give folks a couple minutes in the room. Good, good, good. Okay, so we have some rooms set up. So if you're still here in the room, we can also just talk for a few minutes as well. Does anybody have some ideas about, or maybe something that you have in practice back at your schools or back at your agencies, in terms of like integrating these digital literacy skills into your instruction in some way, or maybe you have separate classes to do it. So if anybody would like to come on mic and
so Anthony, I feel like it got a little choppy. Your voice got a little choppy there towards the end.
Okay, sorry. So what I was saying was, for anybody who's still here with us in the main room, if you want to go ahead and share any ideas on how you currently are using digital skills instruction back at your school, in your classroom, back at your agency, please feel free to come on mic and you can share that with the other folks who are here in the room right now while we have a few minutes. Looks like we have looks like we have about 4 of the rooms full, so breakout rooms. We'll give them a couple more minutes. Then I will probably give people another minute or so. Then I'll close.
Okay. Anthony, I just want to remind you, it is 1:25.
Mhm.
And it looks like there's a mini session starting right away.
I know I'm supposed to actually be hosting one of them. Or open the room, I think. So I'm not hosting. Okay. So maybe if I close all the rooms, does it also give them the timer as well?
It should, if that's the way you,
Yeah, I think it actually did. So let me, yeah, let me close the rooms. Start.
yeah, I gave them 60 seconds.
Okay, good. I think actually what I'll do is let me switch back over to the VFairs for a second here. Oh, sure. Netta, can you see? You can see my VFair.
I do. I can see your VFairs. Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, folks are starting to come back. And I think people are coming back into the main room here. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had a, sorry for the brevity of the conversation time, but it is what it is. So I hope you had, you got something from the room, from your colleagues in the room, and some ideas about how you might start using some of these resources. I have the VFairs platform. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. Again, just as a reminder, if you navigate back to my session listing here, at the very bottom, you should see this folder. And in the folder, there are two documents. There are my slides that we looked at today, and then also the notes document. For any reason, if you're having trouble still getting those documents, just email me and I'll email them to you directly, okay? I also wanted to suggest in the VFairs platform too, there's a way to connect with people. So if you want to connect with some of the people that you were just chatting with, if you open up this chat button, and then you can actually find people directly on the VFairs platform. So you may want to try to touch base with some of the folks that you just spoke with. Okay. We got about 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to wrap this up here and turn it over to Netta. Thanks for coming today. This is a really dense topic, but it's a super, super important topic. So if you want to continue the conversation, have OTAN come to your agency, do a longer training, really dig into some of those resources and talk about how to use them in your classes. Just make sure to reach out to us at OTAN. More than happy to join up with you and talk more about this stuff. I always share with this at the end of my session, 3, 2, 1, reflect on 3 things you learned today, 2 things that you will share, and 1 thing you will try. And so hopefully you found one resource in the mix today that you'll start thinking about, okay, how am I going to use this with my students to address that digital skills challenge that they're currently facing, or with your community. So with that, I will, very end of the slides, we have our contact info. That's where Ned and I live. And then again, make sure to take a look at the OTAN website, otan.us. Lots of good stuff there. So Netta.
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Anthony. And thank you for joining us for today's session, helping our students acquire digital literacy skills, please see the evaluation link. So you have the evaluation link right on the BFairs platform where Anthony was just sharing. You do want to click on that survey link. Just remember that survey, you have to click next in order to get some drop-down menus for each session, right? So if you see CASAS as the initial, when you get on there, keep going, hit next until you go into your session block that you're reviewing. So I know it's a little confusing, but please evaluate the session so that we know we're doing good stuff to continue, or where we need to work on some modifications to make it even better for you. Thank you again for joining this session. We will see you in the next sessions. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dana.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye, everyone.